Mr. Karun Thareja of fairsign.com, Mr. Pratush Majumdar from 91 Mobile, Mr. Raman Karla from Renew Power, Mr. Abhishek Mahanti from Google Cloud, and Mr. Siddharth Talyan from Persistent System, senior technology leaders, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of ETCIO, Google Cloud and Persistent System, I'm really delighted to welcome all of you to the Transformation Cloud series focusing on accelerate your cloud transformation journey. Through this series, senior technology leaders from various organizations will try to enlighten us on the ways to step up business innovation with Transformation Cloud. And this is really important because organizations of different sizes are looking to drive complete transformation of their business by inventing new ways of accomplish their objective using the cloud. And that could be, from making core process more efficient to improving how they reach and better serve their customer, and also to build skills that accelerate their ability to transform. And we will have two eminent speakers, one from Google Cloud and one from Persistence, more enlightening on this topic. And I hope that for the next 1 hour discussion and the keynote presentation that we will have, it will enlighten us on the cloud transformation journey that we should be taking. So thank you once again for joining us today. Now I would like to request, let me introduce Mr. Abhishek Mahanti, Head of Partner Engineering at Google Cloud India, and he will deliver his keynote address on the Transformation Cloud. Mr. Abhishek brings over 2 decades of experience in the tech industry, having worked with organizations like AWS, HP, Sun Microsystem, and Oracle, SCL. As a leader in the cloud domain, he has donned multiple hats spanning application development, solution architecture, SaaS transformation, partner development, and in his present role, he heads partner engineering for Google Cloud, as I said, in India, and enables partner to become the best technical sales and delivery extension of the Google Cloud. And once he finishes his presentation, he will also be joined by Mr. Siddharth Talyan, Head of Sales Digital Native at Persistent Systems. And Siddharth is somebody who has a decade of experience in identifying, developing an exponentially growing new market, building diverse and inclusive team. So I would like to now request Mr. Abhishek Mahanti. Over to you, sir.
Thanks. Am I audible? Am I audible, folks? So good to be here. Really glad that we are back in the old world where we are having in-person events. I'm all for having virtual calls and all, but events in a virtual world are no fun at all, right? So thank you very much for showing up for this event. I'm Abhishek, and I have the privilege of running the partner engineering function for Google Cloud in India. And of course, we have Siddharth, a colleague of mine from Persistent, who will be joining me when we talk about cloud transformation journey together, right? Okay, so organizations are looking for partners to help accelerate growth, right? Now more and more companies today are looking at how they transform their business and get growth out of it, right? And Google Cloud is the most trusted partner in a customer's transformation journey, right? Purely because we bring innovation to businesses, right? We partner closely with organizations and help them become the best tech company in their industry, right? Consumers benefit from Google Cloud just by being part of the larger Google ecosystem. Right? Google has deep experience and expertise in consumer products and the larger ecosystem, right? And we help enable customers deliver value to their set of customers, right? And finally, organizations partner with Google because we are committed to build and drive AI-powered industry-specific solutions, cutting across different sectors, be it retail, manufacturing, health, government, so on and so forth, right? So if a customer today wants to embark on a digital transformation journey, right, they have to look no further than Google Cloud. I want to talk a bit about the term cloud and how the meaning of this term has evolved over the years. It means different things to different people depending who you ask. Right? I've been part of the cloud world for over a decade now, right? Having been with companies like HP and AWS in the past, in my past life. And I remember during the earlier days, every presentation probably would have 2 or 3 slides, canned slides talking about what is cloud, why cloud, right? I mean, cut to 2022, right? We don't do that anymore, right? Cloud is the new normal, as they say, right? So during the early years, when we used to talk about cloud, essentially the focus was on cost savings, right? So customers wanted to offload running of their servers from their on-premises, right, to colo providers, to hosters, right? And they would call that they're using cloud, right? So essentially cloud migration during those days essentially meant lift and shift of VMs, right? But over the years, what customers started doing, right, they started consuming more and more different services beyond compute, beyond servers, right? So they started using storage on cloud, they started using databases and some of the other services on cloud, right? And this was the infrastructure cloud era because we were still talking IT, right? But customers today, they expect a lot more than cloud, right? They expect it to deliver beyond IT, right? Today customers want cloud to be change agents, to help them transform their business, right? So conversations these days have changed quite a bit, right? So today customers want to know, help me do predictive maintenance for my factory line, right? Help me do forecasting on my sales data. Help me deliver a much more personalized experience for my customers, user recommendations, right? So they want cloud today to help them drive these new business cases, right? And that brings me to our core mission, right? So at Google Cloud, we strive to help accelerate organizations' ability to digitally transform their business, right? So the conversation is not about, can I run my server on your cloud, right? Can I take backups on the cloud? Of course, those are there, but those are not the conversation starters, right? So what enables all this transformation, right? Given our interactions in the field with customers, right? Customers want 5 primary capabilities that forms the basis of what we call the transformation cloud. Data, open infrastructure, collaboration, trust, right? And underpinning all of this is the need of sustainable technology, right? So coming to the data cloud part of it, right? Customers today don't want to just store their data on cloud, right? They want cloud to help unlock the potential that the data has, right? I'll give you a quick simple example. We used to take backups of these server logs, right? It used to be just dumped there, somewhere in a disk, later in a drive and all, right? And if people wanted to run some troubleshooting or anything of that sort, they would access those logs, right? Today, those logs help us drive business cases. There's a fancier term for some of these things, right? We call it clickstream analysis. But when you go to an online e-commerce website like Flipkart, right? If you click on a certain product and you see few recommendations, on the side, essentially it's the clickstream analysis that's producing those things. So don't get surprised if you find that, oh, it's a coincidence I was looking for this last week and it's popping up again, right? So that's how you, unlock potential from your data, right? Customers want to, build models, train data, and gain inference out of it, right? Open infrastructure. Customers want to run their applications on data, and they want to keep the data wherever it makes sense to them. So you have data, in your local premises, you have data on Google Cloud, you have data in other cloud providers as well, right? And customers want that freedom of running their applications regardless of where the data is, right? Google Cloud probably is the only cloud provider that talks about a multi-cloud strategy, right? Collaboration. Organizations today want employees to come together, right? But connect and collaborate from anywhere they are, right? If anything, that's something we learned over the last 2 years. Businesses were still running, right? As long as employees could connect from their homes, distributed across the country, across the world, right? So collaboration, we have Google Workspace that helps organizations foster a collaborative work culture, right? Trust. Today, more and more stakeholders want access to data. So it's not just your customers, you've got suppliers, you've got third-party partners, right? They all want access to your data, and organizations are thinking how to provide access in a safe and secure manner, right? Google has the most comprehensive suite of security solutions that help you deliver data to your stakeholders in a secure manner, right? And finally, sustainability is today a critical board level topic, right? I'm sure we've all heard of it, right? Organizations want to consume services, they want to use technology, but they want to ensure that has minimal impact on environment, right? All operations that Google Cloud runs is powered by renewable energy. We are the cleanest cloud in the industry, right? So given our leadership and differentiation across each of these 5 pillars, customers choose Google as their choice of cloud provider, right? With that, what I would like to do is call upon stage Siddharth, who would add more color to each of these pillars and share some of joint success that we've seen in the field. Siddharth.
Am I audible to everyone? Okay. Thank you. First of all, I'm really happy that all of us could make it here. I really appreciate your time that you have spent with us today. And really the wealth of experience amongst the audience is priceless. So I'm just going to make sure that you have good takeaways from these sessions. Okay, I think Abhishek covered a lot of things around what is cloud and what are the key aspects of cloud and what are people really trying to solve for. But really, when it comes to a discussion around cloud, there are some basic questions that everybody has, like is the cloud solution that I'm looking at, is it the best for my data? Is it the best for my infra? Is it secure? And can I have the best collaboration possible, right? Especially in the post-COVID era. So these are the questions that we have on the slide right now. And what I'm going to do is try and focus on each of these questions quickly. And please stop me if you have any questions. Okay, first question. Are we the best at understanding and using, in a way, your data? Like, can we help you get the best out of it? Let's look at some stats here and try to understand what is really going on right now. Everybody is talking about the value of data. Everybody is talking about artificial intelligence, right? In fact, there is word going around that if there's AI anywhere in your company logo or in your company name, then investors want to invest in that company because it's doing something which it's supposed to do, right? And a lot of people are actually believing that a small piece of automation becomes AI. But actually, AI is a lot deeper subject than that, right? A lot of you and your peers in your respective companies are actually focusing on solving real problems out there, right? It's very important to ensure that you're also partnering and talking to the right experts in the field to help you make the most of your data and the decisions that you can derive from it, and also how you can use AI. AI does not apply to every use case. Let's put it that way, right? But where it does, you need to ensure that you're talking to the right people. And that's why we see that, according to one of the reports of IDC, only 24% of companies are actually able to realize the value of AI that's available today. And the AI that we're talking about is primarily on cloud. Now, I'll take an example here, right? SmartShift by Mahindra, they had merged with Porter some time back. Logistics company, a great use case, right? What they wanted to do is ensure that the current set of operations, and logistics, as we know, are basically 4 or 5 parameters. It's your warehouse location, the fleet that you have, the capacity that you can handle, and the route that you can take. And of course, the overall cost of running it. They wanted to make sure that the operations are running smoothly. Second, they wanted to ensure that they should be able to scale this rapidly, right? And be able to use the data that they're collecting to somehow increase user experience or improve it. So what we did was we recommended that probably you should consider looking at Google Cloud. And the first thing that we did was Google Maps APIs, which actually help you to take all of these parameters that I spoke about and give you the best and most efficient route possible, for example. We implemented that. Post that, they also wanted to know how do we scale. So Data Store, which is now Firestore on Google Cloud, turned out to be the best solution that they were looking for in terms of NoSQL, heavily scalable solution that's out there. And then we took that data and we said, you know what, why don't we use a serverless data warehouse and help you derive insights from it so that you can feed it back to the application and make the user experience even better. One of the key KPIs, if you look them up right now, they have a LinkedIn page where they list out the key things about what they do. One of the KPIs was to reduce the time to book to 3 minutes or less. And that became their UPI basically in a way, right? So this was a good use case of how we could help a company like SmartShift to do what they wanted to achieve. There are a lot of other things that happen in the background as far as data is concerned, the conversations that happen. I'll just focus on box number 2, right? Now, with the wealth of data that you're collecting, it's very important that you're using the right services along with it. Now, you can run your SQL data on SQL Server, MySQL, Postgres. Yes, you can. You can even use a managed service on any cloud platform, right? What does Google bring to you which is far superior? One example is Spanner. A Spanner is a global serverless, so you don't have to have administrative resources to manage it, and a database that can handle petabyte scale of data, right? In fact, it can handle 1 billion requests every second. Another example of services that really help you scale quickly is whenever you're trying to build a data warehouse, think of Bigquery. Bigquery is again serverless, no admin effort, scales rapidly, and the best thing is it allows you to combine your machine learning and warehousing on the same interface. So now you can write your machine learning models using SQL queries. So that helps you save a lot of effort. Next question. Do we have the leading infrastructure? I think Abhishek was mentioning that 2022 has changed a lot in terms of how we perceive cloud. But even today, more than 90% of workloads are sitting on-prem. And it's not because people don't understand the value of cloud. I think the more underlying thought here is people know that cloud is good, but they don't know which cloud and when and how should they move, right? And that is where I think when the refresh cycle happens of your on-prem infrastructure, you kind of try to do your own research and probably think not the right time and probably will do this later, right? And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of companies are still on-prem. And I'll take an example here of Purple. How many of you are aware of what Purple does? Okay, I see one lady and I'm happy that she raised her hand. Yeah, they have beauty products, e-commerce, right? And what they really wanted to do was they were collecting a lot of data, of course, again, and they wanted to use that data to enhance user experience and at the same time increase the average revenue per user that was coming on their website. So keeping these two things in mind, of course, we recommended that you should focus more on the app rather than on your website. And then we decided that probably you should move to a serverless architecture. So what that does is, of course, you can scale up and down at will depending on traffic. But 2, it releases a lot of your administrative resources who are focused on the website, right? So that's a good start. But after that, you would want to make sure that your users stay and they buy more. So for that, we recommended that you should use Bigquery again for warehousing, but you should use our recommendations engine as well. Now that is a program, that is an algorithm that learns from experiences. This is not a one-time solution that you deploy and forget about, right? I mean, ML is something that keeps learning and you want to improve it over time. So we have been working with Purple for a while, and now, at least the good thing that I see is with a shampoo, you see a conditioner and not a lipstick, right? So It's something that goes along with the product that you're buying. So recommendations are getting better. But at the same time, people are buying more because now they're seeing things that are relevant to them. So they're not seeing things that they don't want to buy. So that's just one example of how we could help a company that was doing really well already to do better. Okay, there are plenty of reasons. I would just want to focus on one box here for the sake of time, which is the introduction of Tau VMs. So they are ARM-based processors, basically, and they are 40% more efficient in terms of price and performance. So what this means is the usual servers that we are used to on cloud, these are cheaper and faster. The closest location that we have right now for Tau VM is Singapore to India, but I'm assuming pretty soon they will be available in India as well. So something to keep in mind when you're evaluating Google Cloud versus anything else. Okay, are we creating the best hybrid workplace? Now, all of us have been through COVID, and most of us who are in leadership roles here understand that a lot of people started working from home, and that kind of became the norm. And when you're in the office, when you define productivity, when you define collaboration, it's standing up and saying hello to someone or just walking and having a conversation. Those things, I don't know when they'll come back, honestly, because even today, the statistics also say the same thing, but I think it's more than 48%. I think most people want to work from home, or at least have a hybrid kind of environment. So what means is, the challenge really is, how do you ensure collaboration? How do you even define it anymore? Because nobody's there working together physically. So a similar point was raised by Shaadi.com, and they came to us and said, you know what, we just don't want email, we just don't want video calls, we just don't want chat, we want a collaborative experience. We want something that users would love to use and something that works for the younger generation. Because of course, most of us are now hiring, I don't know if they're called millennials anymore, I think there's a new term out, but what is the best way to do collaboration? What is the best way to keep people connected? Now, there are products out there. I'm not saying that Google Workspace is the only solution, but I think what Google Workspace does right is two or three things. One, your entire communication suite in terms of your video calling, your chat, your email, calendar, tasks, everything is in a single screen. So unless some of the other solutions, you have to download 3 applications on your computer to work with the same person, you can do all of that from a single screen. Plus, everybody is used to Gmail. Is there anybody here who has not used Gmail? Right? So everybody has. So the training that's required when you deploy an email solution is close to 0. And of course, half the planet in terms of count, 3 billion plus users already using some sort of Gmail solution out there. I think this is the subject that I like the most, which is security. There is a lot of talk around cybercrime, but within closed doors. A lot of CISOs, a lot of senior folks, when there is some sort of a ransomware attack on the application, or there is an attack that basically encrypts their data, they talk about it and they try to get out of that situation without letting the word go out. And there are good reasons, because the market sentiment gets affected. People suddenly don't trust the application anymore because their data is lost, according to them. It happened so once that one of the apps that I usually use, my address got deleted, and I didn't know why. Then I had to add the address again. Nothing came in the news, but I knew something went wrong. I'm not going to name the application though. So, and what happens is, in most cases, the attackers request for a ransom, which is, I don't think that amount impacts the business in a big way, but what it does is, when the word goes out, it impacts the business in a big way, because now they are worried, what if this happens again? So, just coming back to an example again. Now, is Google Cloud secure? Like, do people trust Google Cloud? So, I think a better example here would be the one that you see, the National Stock Exchange. Now, they had a requirement where they said that, you know, we want to have a solution wherein my own people and some third-party researchers would need to access my data around trades and orders, and it has to be secure. They were talking about petabyte scale data, terabytes of data coming in every day, and they just said, this is the problem statement, how can you help solve it? To be honest, as consulting partners, we discussed everything out there, right? But slowly, I think Google Cloud started to make more sense. I'll tell you why, because there are a lot of people who think that Google Cloud is a new product because it doesn't have that kind of market share that probably AWS has. But when you go deeper and understand how well Google has architected security, because it has been running search forever, it has been running YouTube, Google definitely knows what security is. So when it came to NSE, they wanted to check if we have all the ISO and SOC certifications, which we of course had. But more than that, they wanted to understand how security works at the network level. How do the packets move around, for example. They wanted to understand how access can be controlled, and a lot of those things. So my point here is, if NSE can trust Google Cloud, I think there is some subject matter to it. So again, when it comes to security, I would just focus on the box in the center again. So Google has something known as the Security Command Center, and one of the really cool things about that is the event threat detection. Now what it really does is, in simply said, if there is anything that is unusual that happens in the entire ecosystem that you're running, it notifies the right person. Now let me quickly give you a couple of examples. As small thing like a user deactivating two-factor authentication for no reason, notification sent. Something like you have your data warehouse which is secured, and someone has taken a dump out onto storage. That should not happen, right? So notification is sent. If there is a sensitive role, for example, and that is suddenly given to a group of people, that is not supposed to happen. So a notification is triggered. Like this, there are hundreds of these event notifications that can go to the right people. So what it allows you to do is take an action when something is in process, rather than taking an action when something has already happened, right? So that's something that I really like. Now when it comes to security, I also wanted to touch base upon something that Persistent has built. These are some stats. State of ransomware 2022. The numbers here are huge, but I would like you to focus on the box here, which talks about the average ransom paid. Now this is a global number. Yes, it is heavily centered towards North American numbers, but I think the way Indian IT startups and companies are growing, the same set of attackers can very well look at Indian companies as well. But the average ransom paid is around $800,000. Some of the other verticals like manufacturing end up paying even more. Now, a manufacturing unit cannot afford to halt its operations even for a week just because there is a ransomware attack, right? So they ended just paying and just saying, let the operations continue. That's a bigger problem to have. And sometimes we try to understand, okay, what is the dollar value, or what is the real impact of a ransomware attack? What we think is it is 100% impact to your brand reputation. That's where we start focusing. So if the ransomware attack is successful, it impacts your brand directly if the word goes out. So that's the problem we are trying to solve. Now, I'm sure that a lot of us here, we have done the protect and detect. What it really means is we have some mechanism to stop these attacks, right? And we have some mechanism to alert people that, oh, attack has happened, let's do something about it. And that is remediation to some extent. But the question is, does anyone here have a plan for recovering from a successful attack? And I'm not talking about DR, because DR doesn't work if a ransomware attack happens. Anyone would like to pitch in? Okay, probably not. So recovery has been a problem for a while, right? And Persistent, because we have worked with so many large companies, banks and financial institutions, the latest fintech in India, for example, and we saw that this is a problem that needs to be solved. So this is the solution, but you don't have to understand the architecture. The reason I brought this slide up is how the solution works is more important. You should know what I'm talking about, right? So whenever a data is processed and you have your first level of defense, what we do is we start working on the backup of that data because we don't want to work on your live application. We take the backup, we analyze it, we have our own ways to find out if there are any ransomware attacks, any malicious software hidden somewhere. And then the clean version is then stored in a cyber resilient vault, which is, there is an air gap. So this solution, which is our own IP, and we can talk more about it after an NDA, but the cyber resilient vault is something that helps you to keep your clean data safe no matter what attack has happened. They can probably stop your production, probably they can stop your DR or the backups that you stored somewhere else, but they cannot touch this vault. We have done some implementations in North America and they have been pretty successful, right? And we are happy to explore this solution with all of you as well. So this solution works exclusively with Google Cloud, by the way, right? And that is how the partnership works. This is a slide where we show some logos of who we have worked with. And a little bit about Persistent, because Persistent is an Indian company, but when I meet other fellow Indians, they don't know about Persistent. So I just wanted to have this slide. We are 20,000 members strong now, and in fact, we have grown rapidly over the last 2 to 3 years. We have doubled the employee size. But the key takeaway is that we are going to be generating a revenue of $1 billion this financial year. And all of this revenue is because of the services and consulting that we do across the globe. And this also shows that we are doing something right. This slide is about giving you confidence that we have all the certifications, all the right talent, specializations on cloud that anyone would ask for in-house. And this is all about Google, right? So we have everything that to do with Google Cloud. We have all the right people here. Yep, and that's that. That's our tagline. Thank you.
Thank you, Siddharth and Abhishek for interesting presentation. Before I move to the panel discussion, we'll have a small Kahoot quiz wherein all of you can participate. So my colleague just will put in QR code on the screen, and you need to scan the code, and even you can directly visit kahoot.it. And while registering, use your first name and last name correctly. And the questions will be visible on the screen, so possibly we'll be taking around 4 or 5 questions, and you can reply to each one of them. And in the end, top 3 person who have given the right answer will get some sort of prizes and giveaway from our team. So can you start? You can either scan the QR code, or in case you can directly go to the kahoot.it and use this pin to log in. Type your first name and last name correctly so that you could be identified. Six, 7 people have joined, 8, 9. You're not getting network. A lot of people facing the network issue. I think network is a function of telecom. 20 people have joined. Just try one more time, people who are facing some issue in terms of the network. Right. If you all have joined, then possibly we can move to the next round on the questions. Okay, please take your time. So he's going at times to 24, then coming back to 22. So I think we should start with the questions. Three, two, one. Let's go with the first question. How many requests can be handled by Google Cloud Spanner servers? I mean, in 1 second. So you have around 18 seconds to reply. 10,000, 1 million, 100 million, 1 billion. I think this was part of Abhishek presentation, right? 1 second to go. Let's look at the right answer. So good. Mandeep Gulia got 950, Rasik Mathur, Vimla, Harish Goel, Nick. Okay. So the right answer was 1 billion. Let's move to the next question. How much data can be processed by Google Bigquery in 1 second? Any guess? 100 TB, 10 TB, 1 TB, 100 GB. Sixteen people says 100 TB. Then there are 3 who says 10 TB, 4, 1 TB and 1. So I think the 16 one should be the right. Okay, Rasik Mathur at 1848, Harish Goel, Sahil Gupta. Okay, now move to the next one. Which additional platforms are available to you to build, deploy and manage apps on VMs and GKE by using Google Anthos? On-prem, edge, leading cloud platform, all of the above. So it's all of the above. Okay, let's see the answer. Oh, Rasik doing quite well. 2785, Harish is 2746. Okay, next move to the next question. How much time does Google Turbo Replication take to replicate data across regions? 1 hour, 15 minutes, 15 hours, 1 day. Five, four, three, two, one. It is 19, again 15 minutes. That's the right answer. Rasik ko sab pata hai. 3716 and Harish Goel, I think the same. Let's move to the next one. What is the unique feature of PyCR that makes it must-have solutions for cyber resiliency? Ransomware detection, alert and remediate, ransomware recovery, and automated backup. You have 9 seconds. 20 answer, 22 receive, 23. So what's the right answer? The right answer is obviously 9, but Rasik 4548, and now there is gap. Move to the next one. Which services does Persistent bring to you? Data engineering, infra optimization, product engineering, all of the above. All of the above. Persistent does everything, right? Okay, Rasik is maintaining the lead. Okay, now move to the next one. I think this should be the last one. Which of the following Google services is the smartest data visualization tool on the cloud today? BigQuery, Looker, Spanner, and those. 13 people say BigQuery, but I don't think so it's the right answer. Looker should be the right answer, right? So only two. Let's show the final. Chandan Mishra is on third, Khushbu A second, and number one should be Rasik Mathur. So I'll request Abhishek and Siddharth to join in here and felicitate these three winners with a small token of giveaway. I'll first invite Mr. Chandra Mishra to come forward. Yes, give it here. So be here, sir. We'll have a group photo also. Now, Khushbu A. Now, I'll request Siddharth to felicitate this one. Mr. Rasik Mathur, our winner of the day. Please come. Thank you. Now we'll move to the next agenda item, which is the panel discussion on Transformation Cloud Series, Innovating Faster with a Unified and Intelligence Data Platform. I would like to request Mr. Karun Thareja, Head of Marketing and Product, CMPO at Faircent, to join on the dais. I would also like to request Mr. Pratush Majumdar, Vice President Technology at 91 Mobile, Mr. Raman Kalra, Chief Digital and Innovation Officer at Renault Power Limited, if you could join, and Ms. Khushbu Agarwal, Founder and CEO, Zyla Health. And I would also like to request Mr. Siddharth Talyan from Persistent to join on the dais. First of all, thank you so much. And I think during the presentation, both Abhishek and Siddhant very eloquently explained about as to why the cloud is important and the kind of journey the cloud has taken. And I completely agree with Abhishek, because as a journalist, when we used to do the interview of somebody visiting from West, especially the top CEOs of the company. So one of the question will always be about what is cloud and how actually it is spanning in India. But those things never happens now. So somehow the cloud has become a de facto platform for innovation. And what it has enabled, that you have now, a different data points to access that. That means you are actually collecting data from different sources, and therefore your data strategy in terms of the collecting, analyzing, and having a meaningful dialogue with the data becomes really important. So I'll begin with you, Mr. Raman, especially if you could share your view as to how you are solving the big data challenges at your organization. And if you could also share some of the generic sense that you have in terms of the data, power of harnessing the data that we see across different companies.
Yeah, thanks. See, it's a topic which is literally beaten down to death, over last so long on data, and it's still evolving at the same time. So that's the beauty of it. People in some companies believe that we have been doing data analytics and data-driven decision making for long, and yet there is so much more to do. So the point I'm trying to make is that, with the whole advent of new platforms, new technologies, the whole emerging technologies which are coming into play, the art of possible in data itself is exploding. So if I talk about, let's say, our business, there are of course data which is very obvious data, which is SCADA data from our wind farms or solar farms and other areas. Then there is weather data. You talk about weather data, then again there are so many extrapolation that one can do on weather data. Then we talk about the whole climate space, sustainability space. The data which can come into play is now practically beyond imagination. So I think in every industry, every business, what is important today is how do we really step back and think of possible data sources which is beyond the obvious, and that is where the businesses can start transforming and innovating into new business models, whether it is a consumer industry, whether it is ventures shipping up in the climate tech space. And if, for example, the whole world today is talking about sustainability, needs a lot of data. The whole scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 emissions. When you look at scope 3 emissions, every enterprise today is under pressure to see that how do I become a net zero enterprise, let's say by whatever target we set to ourselves. Now, these kind of solutions, just to give an example, or these kind of new challenges of running businesses will push the imagination of our data to a whole new level. And that is where the art of cloud, the advantage of cloud systems, the advantage of edge computing, the advantage of multiple new kind of sensor technologies will come into play, and that data is huge, and so it really needs the entire data fabric to be in place. It needs the entire innovative thinking to be in place, that how do I now play on top of this data to really build my competitive advantage, to really build a sustainable business going forward. So I think that is where I would say the world of data is moving, and of course, I spoke about sustainability as top of my agenda right now, but the same analogy applies to consumer industries and other industries also.
No, you're absolutely right. Also, the fact that once you have the data also give you an ability to visualize, to look at what is really happening in your ecosystem, and then possibly based on that conversation, you can take a lot of different goals altogether. Pratush, would you like to add, especially from your organization and your experience perspective, as to how you looked at being a data-driven organization and some of the challenges as a technology leaders, I mean, you would be facing, as to how you are trying to address in relation to the data management, having a greater understanding of the data, a conversation with the data.
Yeah, thanks for having me here. So data for us is actually the clickstream data that we have from our users. Data is also the data which we collect from the logs. We also have data from various in-house analytic tools. We also use Google Analytics for data. So data comes from all different sources, and we have a kind of a ETL transformation pipeline in-house, developed in-house. So that helps us to actually power our own app. We are able to show recommendations based on what the user is actually trying to see. So by the way, 91 Mobiles is actually a gadget discovery platform in which any user can come and search for various gadgets. It can be mobile phones, laptops, washing machine, televisions. So we provide a platform for the users to actually compare various devices before taking a buying decision. So that way, it's very important for us that we recommend alternatives to the users so that they can actually make a correct decision. Somebody searching for a Samsung phone or any other phone might see a recommendation of some other phones. So all these things, we have our own ETL pipeline in which we accumulate the data and then show recommendations. We also have some internal engines which we power to actually show which are the top phones which the users are searching and something like that. So yeah, for as far as the problems which is concerned related to this data is the size. It's a very huge data coming from so many sources. To be able to manage the data, to be able to extract the correct data and like eliminate the data which we don't want, and to be able to actually show some kind of build some kind of dashboards out of it. All these things are like not easy to solve. So I believe Google Cloud already has some sort of solutions which can be used to do that using some native technologies which we might have built over the period of time. So yeah, so I would say that.
Mr. Karun, if you could also add, because your organization is also highly data driven. I mean, it started with that particular idea of giving a greater visibility. Can you share as to what kind of work that you are doing in that space and some of the challenges that you are facing in terms of the managing data as to how those could be overcome?
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. So I'm Karun and I basically look at marketing, product and technology functions at Faircent. So I kind of have a role, which is both business as well as technology. And to some extent it's helped us a lot because I can drive synergy between the three. And those three elements are like very important. And you can, as you know, one side of it is kind of producing the data. The other one is actually consuming the data. So, I'm privy to both sides of it. So at Faircent, what we really do is called peer-to-peer lending. It's a financial services platform, wherein on the one side we have investors who come in and invest in different kinds of plans. These plans take the funds which come to these plans, and then these are lent out to borrowers on the other side. And then these borrowers repay the loans. Once the loans are repaid, the money is given back to the lenders with interest, right? So on the one hand, we're talking about investors looking at how they can get good returns off of the platform, and what does the portfolio look like, how much return they're making over a period of time with different cuts. And on the other side, we have a borrower who comes to us, with some of his data which is filled up in the form. A lot of the data which we collect from third parties, automated through various entities, whether we may call it like defined sources or like undefined sources. We go to the bureaus to get data, credit bureaus. We go to, like for example, like we have automation around looking at a business, a banking statement and analyzing it and putting it into like some 3,000 odd parameters, and like then really understanding what the financial health of the borrower is, and then giving him a loan offer based on that. Like, so in a sense, like we're different from a bank because a bank doesn't do it at this deeper level. Banks typically have a go no go kind of a philosophy, whereas what we do is really, like my colleague here, they would be doing like an engine which is giving out, what are the next possible purchases for a customer. With us, like it is more like we have to figure out, okay, like in this range of interest rates which we could give to a borrower, what is the best one, right? So, so all that is there. Then of course you have the business side of it, which is like to look at all the operational metrics, all the metrics which enable us to run the business. So all this is going on, at Faircent. Now, and like financial services with peer-to-peer lending, it is kind of like a majorly disruptive thing which is happening in the financial services space. It's something we have pioneered in the country. So almost like every day we are making decisions which nobody's ever taken before, right? So when we built the platform as well, there was nothing we could buy off the shelf. We've built it on our own. So from a technology perspective, it's kind of a mix. There is a lot of bespoke, homegrown, built stuff. We've utilized, so like we run all three platforms as far as cloud is concerned. We were born in the cloud. So we use Amazon, we use Azure, we use Google. and so it's a mix and match of things as far as technology is concerned. But data is extremely important for us from all different perspectives. From a challenges perspective, I think the big elephant in the room really is the resource shortage, right? And I think every one of us would have faced that today. I feel that that's something which we need to address. We're trying to do that in our own small way, but that is really what is holding us back. The applications are myriad. The need is immense, but how do we do it, and how do we do it quickly, and we get the intellectual resource to do it is the key problem.
Absolutely. Ms. Khushbu, I'll come to you since you come from a healthcare background, and we see there are a lot of integration happening within the healthcare, both from the policy point of view, what government is pushing under the Ayushman Bharat, and the idea is to having a digital unique ID card where all the data could be put into one system, and so that people should not need to share their details to every time they go to different medical store or a hospital or something like that. So we do see a lot of digitization and integration happening in the healthcare space. But there is also a challenge of the compliance, security, and most of our hospital not highly, HIMSS is still not being implemented most of the place. Would you like to share, based on your experience, also the conversation that you are having with some of the customer? What do you see in terms of the consuming the data in the healthcare space, and what kind of challenges that you see?
Great, thank you so much for the opportunity. So hi everyone, I'm Khushbu Agarwal, I'm the founder at Xyla Health. We are a 5-year-old health tech organization based out of Gurgaon. So I think very apt, the use of data in healthcare is really at a stage of revolution right now, and it's a never seen before revolution, because at the same time, insurance growth rate in India is phenomenal. While the government is also pushing for Ayushman Bharat and the unique health IDs, the ADHM initiative, as we're all aware, we also see that people are becoming more and more aware, as well as more and more digital. Everything's happening at the same time. So I'm very glad to be sort of shaping some of that today. To your question, I would say data will play the most critical role in defining healthcare in the future. The reason Xyla was born and I came onto this journey, so I come from a pharma MBA background, and I was a healthcare consultant in my previous life, as I call it. So I've seen most of healthcare ecosystem. In India, we are at a very nascent stage, which means no one is hand-holding you towards better healthcare in India. In India, healthcare is transactional, and it's happening in silos. It's happening in a doctor visit, which is happening once in a year, or in a hospital scenario where you're really at a very, very serious stage. What can really transform healthcare is understanding data on every user, codifying it in a way that systems and algorithms can understand it, and then providing the most meaningful intervention that you need. If your triglyceride is high and your father has an early history of heart attack, what interventions can delay that heart event for you? If you're seeing frothy urine every morning and you have edema or swelling in your feet, what is it that can help you prevent kidney disease or delay kidney disease? So what we've done at Xyla is we're working with large organizations, large insurance companies like Aditya Birla Health Insurance, Digit Insurance, large corporates, for whom we first do an assessment of the population. We capture that data and we codify it. So the way data has to be captured in healthcare, it has to be extremely clean, right? Data is oil, and just like oil, it's of no use until it's refined. So what we do is we clean that data and we codify it in what we call medically coded language. So they're formats globally used, like ICD-10, LOINC, ATC. In the US, there are FHIR protocols, and there are companies, as you said, HIMSS is implemented, where all data is speaking one language. In India, we are very nascent. We're just starting this revolution. So we've ensured that from day one, the data I capture on any user is codified to the T. I have built algorithms on top of it to understand it and to provide interventions across the user lifecycle through my app. So my app is a conversational app. It's as easy as WhatsApp, and it talks to the user. So whether it's about reminding you what vital to measure, what lab test to do to prevent a certain disease, what nutrition to intake, what exercise to do, or which doctor at Xyla to speak with, the system can recommend that and personalize that, hyper-personalize that, because of the way I store data. I would say cloud technologies have helped us to the next level, because every such feature I'm telling you today is a microservice at Xyla and residing in our cloud. And because of the microservices based architecture we've actually built on the Kubernetes engine, we see that anything I have to evolve in terms of intelligence is as fast as a couple of days, which used to take 2 months in the past. So I'm very positive. I think we're moving in the right direction. I think organizations are accepting technology and the healthcare revolution. I think the government is playing a huge part in encouraging the ecosystem to evolve. And as we see, the government always has to take that first step. So
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. Siddharth, I'll come to you. So you heard our speaker is speaking about the fact what Mr. Kalla spoke about the sustainability in managing our data. Mr. Pratush spoke about the scalability, the challenge in terms of you have huge amount of data and you would like to actually have a meaningful dialogue with the data. Sir spoke about the capacity building challenge in terms of having a right set of resources that one should have in fact to work around the data. Would you like to share based on your experience, because you work across the country with different set of organization, as to what kind of newer innovation you see and some of the challenges that our speaker spoke about, how those could be taken care of?
I think I've had my fair share of time talking earlier, so I'll keep this very brief. See, I've heard everyone. I think they are the experts. They are running the businesses here, right? So all I would like to say is that whatever I've seen till date, it's about speed with which you can collect data, clean it up, and make it ready for analysis, and how accurately you can use those insights to deliver an awesome user experience. I think it summarizes into that, but of course it's a very deep and complicated subject.
Mr. Karla, I'll now take you to the different thing. Since we have spoken about as to how important the data is for an organization to be a data-driven organization, but at the same time, it also brings a kind of challenge in terms of whether you are able to do a meaningful conversation in terms of using next generation technology such as AI and ML to build something new. Also, there could be a challenge from a security perspective, as during his presentation he spoke about. So from a security perspective, would you like to say the kind of challenges that you are saying, some of the trends, and as to how those could be taken care of?
Yeah, I think challenges, as I said, the bigger challenge in my opinion is really to think through of the extended data sources to make more sense, to have a a differentiation in the industry. I think that is a bigger challenge where I see companies still, not doing enough. To come to your point from a security aspect, of course, if you are into a consumer industry, the requirements of GDPR and the other data privacy makes it even more critical for you to have security, in a lot more tighter manner. And even cutting across other areas also, security is again, it's a very obvious thing that you got to really protect that. Now, having said that, there are solutions. There are enough means available today to proactively stay on top of it, and that's what we as an organization, of course, do. It's an area which is very fast evolving. The more you keep your data secure, the more there are people outside, whose full-time job is to hack and and make money out of that and make life difficult. So yeah, security. I'll say that yes, it is a challenge for everybody, but it is not something that keep us awake. I would put it like that, because you can take enough precautions and preventive measures and stay on top of it, depending on what business you are in. So it's not something that really keep us awake. What really keep us challenging is what more we can do. Is how can we really innovate further as a next step. That's it.
Right. Pratish, would you like to focus on especially on the part of leveraging technology like AI and machine learning for a newer innovation? If you have done something in your organization, if you could talk about as to how you look at that.
So for AI and machine learning and all, we have not yet done too much work in this field. We have our own business logic. We have our own algorithms which actually does the work behind the scene. But yeah, I mean, Google Cloud, I think it's AI and ML is a very big thing in Google Cloud. So yeah, so we can use AI and ML, but as I said, we are yet to actually go in that direction.
Right. Earlier, you were speaking about the fact that some of the challenge on the scalability part. Would you like to further add to the point, given the fact that you might be having some vision from a technology perspective, and then you are facing some of the challenges? So, as to what those are the key roadblock for you?
Two things. First of all, whenever we are doing that transformation of the data and cleaning up the data, time is very important. Sometimes it takes forever to complete the process. Sometimes the data is very huge to actually query the data. And these are the basic two important things that I would say, querying the data and making it faster so that we can act upon it. And these are two, I would say, these are two things.
Right. Mr. Karun, earlier you spoke about some of the role of the technology that is playing in your organization and some of the offering that you have. Can you also share something around some of the vision statement that your organization has, and what are the challenges that you face in terms of implementing those from a tech perspective? And if you had a chance to go through maybe some use cases of AI and ML in your organization, if you could talk about them.
Yeah, so we have just recently successfully completed one project around AI ML. So it's not a very major business impact, I would say, but what we do now on a real-time basis using trained algorithms is like look at documents which a customer submits to us as for various different reasons, like for his identity, for his financial data, etc., etc. So we have created a way of classifying those documents into what kind of document they have, along with meta tags using some artificial intelligence and machine learning classification algorithms. Right? So having said that, like my take on AI ML is really that for us to like kind of make much more use of it, we need some proven cases, right? And so that we can like look at this. Fundamentally, like it's a mixture of two things. There is domain knowledge, and there is statistical knowledge, which is really required to make something in AI ML, have a good business impact, right? Like for example, like I would love to do, take the offer engine which we have and use AI ML to make much more accurate offers of loans to customers. But that really needs a very deep understanding of risk, of credit, which is proven, because fundamentally you're making a business decision which could like reduce your profitability to zero or maybe even take it negative, right? And the other part is the statistics bit, right?
Right.
To understand what algorithm to use for that, right?
Absolutely. Ms. Khushbu, I would like you to focus on the security part, because earlier you say anyway the data is the de facto oil, and on top of that we'll be building lot of things, and in healthcare space the compliance and security becomes really a big challenge for the CIOs, CISOs or a business head. What kind of challenge you are seeing on the security front, and as to how those are being addressed?
Sure. I think I'd like to touch upon both aspects, security and the AI ML applications, which, interestingly is the topic of conversation. On security, I would say using the right platforms, which are in healthcare, there are three types of compliances globally. There is HIPAA, which is more American Privacy Act. There's GDPR, which is the European, and there's ISO 27001. At Xyla, we were pretty OCD from the start that we have to serve the large clients and we have to really create some ripples in the industry and not just do pass-through work. So we ensured we get all three compliances in place. Since the last 2 years, we are compliant to HIPAA, GDPR, and ISO 27001. It means that your data has to be encrypted. It means that authorization controls or access controls have to be defined and put in place. It means that there have to be locks and keys in place and very limited access to PI data that only care professionals have access to and the end user has access to. When I'm working with a large corporate or a large insurer and working on their population for health improvement, I can only provide them population health analytics and not individual level data. So that is something that we've been pretty crazy about since the start, because we go through enough amounts of audits and processes for that. On the tech applications, I have some interesting use cases to share with all of you. My CTO co-founder Ishwari, who's the one behind all of this tech, I'm just a spokesperson today. But on the AI front, we have a couple of very interesting use cases. One, the chat infrastructure we built out, and we built it out in-house on RabbitMQ. We built an escalation layer. So we have a chat bot which can understand what you're writing through NLP, for which we use Dialogflow technology of Google, and it can understand things you're writing in your native language. It can compare it with your longitudinal data and Xala protocols, and it can give you a first level recommendation on the chat. If things are medical or contextual in nature, it escalates it to a human that's manning the chatbot 24/7, 365 days. If required, also escalate it to a doctor. So this entire escalation engine is built on top of AI. We also use a whole lot of digitizing of data. So we have lab reports, we have to digitize that data, capture it in a sensible way. So we use the OCR technologies of leading cloud players, and we've built on top of that, we've made it very indigenous, and we have customized it for the way in India. On the ML front, there are a couple of interesting use cases. One is, if I know your longitudinal data, how can I predict your heart risk, kidney risk, cancer risk, and act upon that, so I delay it, or I defer it, or I prevent it. So I predict that risk for every user. I give them a health risk score, and then I help them improve it. Secondly, we have algorithms now which are under progress. Very exciting ones will be live by next year, in which you can upload a picture of your hair, skin, feet, or teeth, and it tells you the level of deterioration. It gives you a comparison percentile with respect to a baseline in India, and it tells you what you can do to improve it. So some very interesting work going on, and I'm excited about the times ahead.
Wonderful. Siddharth, earlier you spoke about the security part. Now I would like you to focus on the use cases of AI and ML that a couple of speakers have spoken as to how do you look those technology and how this could become an integral part of an innovation journey for any organization.
No, I'm very happy to hear the use cases. Like, they're really exciting. And I think there is a wealth of experience out there, and not just talking persistent, or not just talking Google, but there is wealth of experience out there. People have achieved things in doing a lot of these, solving these use cases. I think it's always good, but be it security, be it AI, ML, these two subjects especially, it's always good to partner with someone who has done this before in the past, right? That saves you a lot of time and effort, because you can spend 6 months training a model when someone has done it already and probably can just do this in a few weeks. So that's my opinion. I think great work being done, but just I think it's always good to just talk to other experts as well.
Thank you so much. I think we have completely exhausted our time. So I have a time for one question from audience. So if any one of you would like to ask any question to any of the panelists, feel free to ask.
So I basically want to know, when you hit at somebody's CIBIL score and all, are you taking the proper permissions and all? This is not total IT, but business related.
Yes, we do. We have to we have to adhere to RBI's guidelines regarding pulling any sort of data from anywhere. So we have to take the consent of the user.
Because see, this kind of brings in the challenge that we have today, in theft of data of people and all, especially when we talk about health also. So that is a kind of thing. People who are, I do not have an IT background, but this is a big challenge for us. Anytime we want to use all these apps and all. So it's very difficult. So I hope all that we load on the system these days is secure and all. Anybody can take it.
Would you like to?
Sure. I think very well said. And in India, regulations are a little bit hazy, right? And the court of law is a little slow. So people, your worry is absolutely understood. That is my data safe with respect to me uploading financial data of a credit card or my health data? I think it's very, very important that you ensure that any authorization you're giving to any app or any product, any website, you think through it, right? Which means the OTP, for example, which is generated has to be from an authenticated source of an organization. If you're going to a website, there is a form on cookies that you're asked to fill. A lot of us, for shortcuts, because we're always in a hurry, we just say accept, accept. You can actually say ask more. You can actually deselect that do not give out my personal browsing data, and it will not save that data of cookies. I would also like to tell you that the Privacy Act, which was passed by the Parliament last year around the time of COVID, gives you the authorization to ask any product in the country to delete all your personal data, no questions asked. I get those requests. We have to fulfill them within 24 hours. We are under the radar of law. So it means that where you're giving your data, the authorizations for it, how much data, as well as knowing that as a consumer, you have the right to ask to delete all your personal data, be it Facebook, Google, or Xyla Health. It's your choice. As a consumer, awareness, being aware, knowing what you're signing up for, your rights, is the first line of defense. Everything else is secondary.
Absolutely. So we have completely exhausted our time. Thank you so much for being such a wonderful panelist, sharing your views on the cloud, the challenges that we face, and some of the great work that we can do with the help of AI and ML. So thank you so much once again for your time, sir. Thank you.
Most welcome. Thank you so much.